I wanted to ask you, the Special Rapporteur Ben Emmerson has concluded a visit to Sri Lanka, and he issued a report where he said that torture is widespread today, not in the past, but today, and that the reforms that were called for by the Human Rights Council have not, that progress on them has, quote, ground to a halt. So I wanted to know two things. One is, with Mr. Feltman going there, is he going to raise this issue of ongoing torture? And number two, the UN is still continuing, it seems, I've heard, and I've seen pictures of, to recruit Sri Lankan troops to serve in MINUSMA in Mali. Given this new finding by the UN that the security forces in Sri Lanka are engaged in torture, what particular safeguards are in place to make sure that those involved in the abuse aren't, in fact, just shipped to Mali to continue it?
Well, wherever we recruit soldiers from, in every country, we try to vet the peacekeeping troops, the incoming peacekeeping troops, to make sure that they're not involved in any problems like that in their home country. And of course, we would do that sort of vetting for Sri Lankan troops as we would for any other country. Regarding Mr. Feltman's travel, of course, we'll try to provide details on that once it's happened.
So for example, will DPKO get it? This report just came out today, and the recruitment has already taken place. There's the resident coordinator has been meeting with the military. The military's been bragging about it. I guess what I want to know is, in light of this new UN founding released today, will this information be incorporated before people get off the plane in Mali to begin serving the UN?
If there's new relevant information regarding the peacekeeping troops that they're dealing with, then our Department of Field Support, DFS, would look into that.
Sure, thanks a lot. I want to ask about Burundi, Western Sahara, and the Anglap Seng case. Burundian refugees in Tanzania in this camp called Nduda were visited by, I guess, members of MKAPA's team, the mediators team, and some ambassadors to Burundi from Tanzania and Kenya. But there wasn't, I wanted to know, first of all, many of the refugees have raised questions that they were basically being encouraged to return to the country, which they see as unsafe. Was there any involvement by Michel Kafando and as a UN mediator? Is he aware of this trip? And what does the Secretary General, with his interest in refugees, does he believe this is a propitious time to tell Burundian refugees in neighboring countries to return?
Obviously, our position on all refugees is that they can only return to countries when they feel the conditions are safe to allow them to do so. As you know, we abide by the idea that all countries should observe the principle of non-refoulement, and so that's where we stand on that. I'm not aware of any role that Mr. Kafando had in this.
And also, on Western Sahara, I think the Frente Polisario has sent a communication to DPA and DPKO and MINURSO about they've captured, they say, 19 people coming over the berm from Morocco and put them in, there's photographs, it's in El País, and I'm just wondering, given what happened in Gergerod, what's the UN comment on it? Will you confirm that you've received the communication, and what's the UN intend to do about it?
I'll check whether we've received any communication from them.
And yesterday, down in court in the Anglap Seng / John Ash case, it emerged, a number of things came out, but as to the UN, that South News, which was Anglap Seng, it's been documented in the case, entirely funded by him, was working to reach an agreement. An email was put on the screen, working to reach an agreement with not only the Office of South-South Cooperation, but UN TV to put their material in. And so I wanted to know, given what's been revealed in the case about South News' connection to a bribery scheme, will you, maybe you'll answer it from the podium, or if you could, I would just ask you, not just as to the Office of South-South Cooperation, but as to UNTV, a division of the Department of Public Information, to determine whether such an agreement was ever reached and what their statement is about this South News material still in UNTV archives.
Well, first of all, I don't have any comment on the ongoing trial, and I wouldn't have that as that proceeds. Regarding South News, last year it ceased to have its accreditation as a media outlet at the UN, and there's no arrangements with South News, which is not accredited.
Right. But my question is, if you go today to UNTV, just plug in the name, you'll find this material that went in. The question is, given that the way in which this bribery scheme penetrated the UN, what steps have been taken? And it's sort of surprised, like, was an agreement ever reached? Just a simple yes or no question. Was an agreement ever reached during the time frame? Has nothing to do with the guilt or innocence of Mr. Anglap Seng between South News and the Department of Public Information.
Like I said, I don't have any comment on the information that comes out in the trial. what I can say, clearly there is no agreement with South News, which is not accredited as a media outlet at the UN.
Right, but that's not the question. The question is, was there an
Well,
agreement?
that's where we stand with them now. And as for details in the trial, that'll come out as a part of the trial process.
Right, but that's not what the trial was about. That's not whether he's exonerated or not. It's not going to determine the UN has cited immunity, and so that's why I'm asking you just a factual question.
That's the information we have. You know, if you're asking me about South News status, that's what it is. It does not have accreditation, and it does not have a contract with UN TV. Have a good afternoon, everyone.